to, like a Loom video and just send it to you guys. But then I was like, well, I'm just going to record it and then just kind of go through it. And then if you guys have any questions, we'll just ask them as they go and then just kind of go like that. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So let's do this. Everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So in this presentation, if I go over time, please forgive me, but it's 50 slides long. And so what I'm going to also do is download this into a PDF and then send it to you guys as well, and just use it as reference points as you go on, because there's going to be some invaluable tools here for you to like kind of go back to for like reference when there's these come ups, or you want to help someone else, or you are dealing with this obviously, and then obviously you guys are working through some of my stuff, so wouldn't really have to worry about it like that. But yeah, so this is just kind of the overview. So we're going to break down hormones, just kind of so going from testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and then everything that's like going on during the cycle from 0 to 28, ovulation, everything like that. And then PMS, what does it cause from? What can we do to fix it? And then same with estrogen dominance. Okay, so yeah, so perfect. So what I want to say here is that, first of all, 80% of women deal with hormone imbalance, 20% of men. So 80% of women in their whole lifetime experience hormone imbalance. Okay, whether it be just from obviously menopause, or from, obviously the birth control and all those different things. And then 20% of men, and then up to 40% as they age. Okay, so first, let's identify just a hormone is essentially, so hormones are chemical messages, okay, that are sent in the bloodstream. Okay, so they're just a messenger. They're nothing more, or obviously nothing less. Like, they just a communication between the body to one to the next. So like, think about it as I'll get into a good representation, like a graph here in a sec, but like it's more than, it's not just one thing, if that makes sense. So if I was to take testosterone as a male, it's not just going to go to my testosterone because it's a message. So it's also going to go to like my estrogen as well. Same with different types of birth control. If you were going to take one that's primarily estrogen related, it doesn't just go to estrogen. It can go into some of your androgens or DHEA or anything like that. Okay, so as a woman, you have three main hormones that play distinct roles in regulating your menstrual cycle: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. All right, obviously it helps with ovulation, but also, helps with metabolism, mood, mental health, and digestion. Okay, so and at different points of your phases, you have higher hormones. So in the beginning of your cycle, you have higher estrogen, and then on the back end of your cycle, you have higher progesterone. Okay, and we'll go more into that here. So think about it as your cycle is like your fifth vital sign. If you're talking to it next to like your blood pressure, your what are some other breathing, anything like that, like heart. Yeah, like pulse, heart, yeah. So it's like your fifth vital sign. So when the cycle is off, that should be like an indicator that, okay, something is messed up in my body. Like it's not going right. Things aren't going how it needs to be, and there's issues going on. So you want to ask yourself, like, kind of like, what are the questions about your cycle? Is there pain, heavy bleeding, clotting? Are you having a lot of water retention? Do you look bloated all the time? How long is your bleeding lasting? How is the mood? And just kind of things like that, even like skin issues. So those are just some self-awareness questions, or like questions that you can see, whether maybe even in your kids or someone else, just kind of like things for you to, ask yourself. Okay, so first of all, we got to see, like, what is the history background? Okay, so was like, I always have people that come to me and they have all these hormones imbalances, but that was because they've been on birth control for like 7 years. All right, that has a big role of it, obviously. All right, pregnancies, obviously, miscarriages, any type of UTI, yeast infections, obviously PCOS, fibroids, and then just genetics. Like genetics and hormones are in itself like a whole topic, but just like different gene snippets that you have could manipulate hormones. And then just kind of like, did you already have, irregular cycles in the past? So just kind of like that. So this is going to be like the first big thing. So this is like looking at hormones abroad. So this is just like a very like kind of simplified of hormones. Okay, so back to what I was saying from before. Hormones are the end user and message. They're a messenger. Okay, they message to each other. Okay, so to begin with everything, hormones primarily come from a few different things, but mainly these two. CRH, which is corticotropin releasing hormone, and then cholesterol. Okay, so different insults that impact hormones, because you don't just have hormone imbalance from your hormones are just making enough hormone. You know what I mean? So it's not that you're just estrogen is just, just making more estrogen. There's reasons why, and this is going back to deductive, inductive reasoning. So if we think about it as like inductive, deductive reasoning is more so like, if you look at conventional medicine, if there's like a blood pressure problem, we give a medication for that blood pressure problem. But we don't look at like the deductive side of, we know that the blood pressure problem can tie into either their sleep, their nutrition, their exercise. So by looking at hormones that way, we can see that like if I'm dealing with, high estrogen, is it from like fat? Is it because I'm insulin resistant or insensitive? So to begin with, hormones primarily, CRH is corticotropin releasing hormone coming from the hypothalamus. So especially as women, this is very vital because you obviously don't create testosterone in your testes. You don't have them. So what you do is you actually create them in your adrenal glands. So when you make them in your adrenal glands, you make it through you make DHEA. So when stress is jacked up, then you have high adrenals. So then you're not making enough DHEA, or you're making too much DHEA, which then filters into the androgens. And then when you have too high of androgens, then you'll have too high of estrogens. So this E1, E2 is estrogens, androgens, testosterone. And then over here is cholesterol. So like getting it from like fats, or your body also makes cholesterol. And I want you to look at this thing where it's like, it goes from cholesterol into pregnenolone, and then the progesterone, and then to aldosterone. You see how it's like a trickle effect? So let's go back to the insults here. So insults meaning what impacts hormones in abroad. So fat. So the more fat you have, the more aromatase there is. The aromatase is the conversion of androgens into estrogen. All right. And then from testosterone into estrogen. Okay. So the more fat, overweight people are, that's why a lot of like guys, even maybe like women, you got like hips, hips and glutes. There's more fat there. That's estrogen. Okay. So like anyone who's a lot bigger, that's estrogen dominant because there's more aromatase happening. And then there's overall systemic inflammation. Okay. Next is insulin. Insulin's a key converter to a lot of sex hormones, but primarily we're looking at the insulin impacts from pregnenolone into progesterone. So that impacts this whole cascade. Okay, so with poor insulin sensitivity, hormones can't get converted properly. Does that make sense?
Say it once more again.
So when insulin is insensitive, so it's not that it's resistant, it's just insensitive. Because it works both ways. All right, there's resistance and insensitivity. Resistance is that it's rejecting the message. It's rejecting the message, but insensitive is where it can't even hear the message. Okay, so insulin's a key converter to sex hormones. So from pregnenolone into progesterone, primarily. Toxins in the gut. Okay, I'm going to get into this in a bit, but all your hormones have to get detoxed out the liver. So that's why we flush you in the beginning, because hormones are getting detoxed out the liver / gut. And if you can't detox well, and this is so common right now, if your liver can't detox well, then you get backed up. Okay, so when you get backed up, I'm not talking about constipation backed up. Maybe you are. Maybe they do have constipation backed up. I'm talking about like your hormones can't detox out your body through like liver, stool, or sweat. So then you get, estrogen buildup. So then you have estrogen dominance. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then calories. So that means calories, cals. And so calories. So if you starve out the system, you don't have enough cholesterol coming in, so you can't make more hormones. All right. And then you're also, not eating enough. That's a stressor. So now you're putting CRH through the roof. So see how it can impact CRH and then cholesterol. So making sure that we have adequate nutrition with actual good food, whole food, that's vital, because we wouldn't want to starve out the system, and then we don't want to stress ourselves out even more. Because I want you to understand that all of these is an interconnected relationship. One goes into the other. Okay, let's say androgens are jacked up. I mean, that has an inverse relationship with progesterone, okay, or DHEA, okay? So they're all connected. Neurotransmitters are primarily talking about CRH, so talking about stress hormones, okay? So let's think about it as if your gut is messed up, so 80% of your neurotransmitters are housed in the gut, primarily serotonin, which is 90%. 80% of your mood hormones are housed in the gut. So therefore, gut's off, you're stressed out. Now we can see, okay, now there's an imbalance of hormones now. Okay. Or we look at it as this. Maybe a little bit overweight, you're insulin insensitive or resistant, your liver's backed up, you're not eating enough, and you got poor neurotransmitter health. Okay, now we can kind of see the relationship. Now we know why there's a hormone issue. Is this all starting to make sense? Okay, so with the liver, going back to that, yeah, so all your hormones get detoxed out the liver. Okay, so then just an overview here. Cholesterol, we convert it to pregnenolone, from pregnenolone into progesterone. Okay, remember progesterone is vital for the cycle. This hormone, aldosterone, is very undervalued, because this hormone actually is like a big reason why women feel a lot more bloated and have water retention, is that when this hormone is elevated. In this one, this aldosterone hormone has a relationship with your stress levels with cortisol. So when your cortisol is jacked up, it also jacks up aldosterone, which holds extracellular water. Reasons why you feel so watery, maybe when you're stressed out. Maybe you wake up after a poor night's of sleep and you look in the bathroom and you got like edema. Okay, so that's just aldosterone. Okay, and then obviously testosterone, androgens. So yeah, so this is a quick overview of just hormones before we get into it more particularly. All right, so pregnenolone. Okay, so pregnenolone, obviously, like we saw from the image before, comes from cholesterol. Okay, from the mitochondria, and then obviously it's coming from the pituitary gland, from depending on male, woman, FSH or ACTH. Top of my head, I believe that's acetyl. It's acetyl something, and then luteinizing hormone, which all produced in the adrenal glands. All right, so it feeds into all other hormones. All right, so like I was saying before, it can convert into either progesterone, DHEA, androgens, testosterone, or cortisol. Okay, this is probably like, okay, guys, this is the biggest thing I want you to take away right here. So it can become progesterone, DHEA, androgens, testosterone, cortisol. So cholesterol gets converted into pregnenolone. So let's say you eat something with cholesterol. That then gets converted into pregnenolone. But then from pregnenolone, it feeds into all hormones. Okay, so then it'll either go into progesterone, DHEA, androgens, testosterone, or cortisol. Okay, so that's just a quick overview. So like pregnenolone, cholesterol, pregnenolone, and then either progesterone, DHEA, androgens, okay, and then progesterone. So obviously, like we said, progesterone is coming from pregnenolone primarily, which is coming in from the adrenal glands, ovaries, or testes, depending male, female. All right. And then it's also from the corpus luteum, and it's a derivative of cholesterol. So I want you to just keep thinking like it's just a trickle effect. Okay. So it's from cholesterol, pregnenolone, into progesterone. Okay. This is important for when we supplement supplements. Because if I give you a supplement for pregnenolone, it doesn't just go to progesterone. You see this now? So if I just gave you a supplement for progesterone, it doesn't just go into progesterone. It could go into DHEA. It can go into your androgens, testosterone, or cortisol. Okay, so this is stuff you have to manage. Okay, so for instance, I'll tell Kat. So Kat, I gave her chaseberry. I gave her chaseberry to help with her progesterone, but I know that it feeds into androgens as well. So I gave her saw palmetto with it. You see what I mean? So if I just gave her progesterone, or if I just gave her a chaseberry to help with progesterone, how do I not know it's going to go into the androgens? You know? So I have to work on something that lowers androgens as well as testosterone and with adaptogenol support, if that makes sense. Okay,
Kinda.
so yeah, so it's just more so like it's like a trickle effect. So
Mhm.
so like if I was to get if I gave her chaseberry to help with progesterone, it doesn't just go into progesterone. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It can go into it filters into other hormones as well. So what you want to do is have support for it. There's no like transportation back to like chemical message.
Which is a
So yes,
milk.
correct. Is that making sense?
So is
Or
it kind of important to have like a hormone panel done before you start supplements, or do you just kind of?
So since I take you had that like super intensive like questionnaire of getting all those symptoms.
Yeah.
So I take out like different from the questionnaires, and then even like just from flushing the liver and everything, I'm hitting all those key markers, especially with like I got adaptogen support, I have estrogen detoxification support. Okay, with having all those things, I can add those other things in as well.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, definitely that. Let's go back here.
So
Okay.
do you mean detoxing will help kind of
I'm sorry.
like
What is it?
detoxing helps allow you to kind of like start again, like reset the cycle system or like the hormonal system.
Exactly, because what we're doing is we're flushing the body out of toxins and inflammation, which are big aggravants for the hormonal imbalance. And then obviously if there's backed up liver, there's backed up detox, and there'll be backed up estrogen.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So that's just a big thing with hormones, is that we have to strategically, even if you went to, like a holistic doctor and they saw that your DHEA was low, we want to make sure first that you don't have high androgens. Because if I just gave you DHEA, it can filter into those androgens. Okay.
Which is what PCOS is a high androgen.
100%. So like that's a big issue. Like I've had people, and I even took from mentors I was talking to, like someone would give a woman DHEA, but they wouldn't check their androgen. So what they did was, they quite possibly gave the woman PCOS.
Wow.
Okay, so big thing. All right, so that's why there's strategic supplementation. We can't just throw stuff in there, especially if we're dealing with hormones. Like if I want to throw you turmeric and fish oil, that's fine. But if we're talking about like hormone stuff, like it has to be a whole different ballgame. Okay, so women's testosterone. So obviously, I'm pretty sure you guys obviously know that you need testosterone. You're probably not too on that. Just kind of like it aids in mood, cognition, sex drive, supposed to say mineral density, and then motivation. So here's big thing here. So testosterone in your body gets made by your ovaries and adrenal glands, okay? But half of your testosterone comes from the circulation of two other hormones, DHEA, androstenedione. DHEA, androstenedione, right here. Androstenedione is an androgen inside you as a woman. So your testosterone in your body gets made by your ovaries and adrenal glands. So going back to the picture from before, we looked at CRH. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Right here, CRH, like the adrenal glands. So that's where this is getting made. But half of it is getting made from DHEA, androstenedione. But remember that aromatization is the conversion of, right here, aromatization, the conversion of androgens and testosterone into estrogen. Okay, so this is also like a big deal with PCOS or just hormone imbalance abroad, because if you have high DHEA androstenedione, then you also have high aromatase. You have high aromatase, you have high estrogen. You have estrogen dominance. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. So let's say you have high DHEA and high androstenedione, which is androgens essentially. High DHEA coming from stress. Okay, you have a lot of stress. We think of stress as a noun, but stress from undereating, overtraining, overworking, emotional stress, physical stress. Okay, so DHEA is jacked up. Androstenedione is also jacked up too. But these two hormones feed into your estrogen, called from aromatization. So you're very stressed out. So DHEA is high, but then DHEA is high. Then you remember it trickles down, so androgens are higher. But now androgens feed into estrogen through aromatization. So now you have high estrogen. Okay.
And estrogen dominance is bad?
So estrogen is great, but when it's in abundance, that's when it's bad. That's when you get all the symptoms that I'll go into later. Just more so like the bad cramps, the bloating, the water retention, the weight gain, those type of things. So here's the big thing with flushing and everything. So two of your main hormones, testosterone and estrogen, travel through your blood attached to a transporter protein made in your liver called sex hormone binding globulin. Okay. And then also for my people that are with thyroid issues, there's also something called something, I think it's thyroglobin, TBG. It's called TBG, thyroglobin binding globulin. So that's the same thing. So it takes hormone from you, so you don't have enough. Okay. So a big thing here is SHBG when it gets high, and this is very common with pregnancy. This is when it takes more free hormones from your body. Okay, so sex hormone binding globulin is a protein made in your liver. And what it does is that it takes up hormone out of your body when it's higher. So when sex hormone binding globulin is raised high, it wants to take hormone from your body, free hormone. So you don't use it. It like traps it. So this is a very vital test for like when people test it, is sex hormone binding globulin. So like what decreases insulin resistance, hypothyroidism, obesity, PCOS, cortisol, and prolactin. What increases it? SHBG, pregnancy, hyperthyroidism, liver disease, birth control, and then low fat vegetarian diet. All right, so progesterone. So progesterone is made in the adrenals, ovaries, and testes. In women, progesterone is also secreted by the corpus luteum and is derivative of cholesterol. So cholesterol, pregnenolone, progesterone. All right, so back to what we were saying, one of the main hormones of ovulation is progesterone. All right, so what it does is affects excitatory neurons, so neurotransmitters, so GABA, glutamate, serotonin, dopamine. So when you're not ovulating and you're not getting that release of progesterone, that messes up neurotransmitters, messing with your mood and happiness and things like that. So it feeds into many important hormones, cortisol, androgens, and then weakly into testosterone, estrogen. All right. So one of the main hormones for you guys, all right, going into menopause, this is very crucial. Progesterone. Don't ever forget about this hormone, progesterone. Okay, it's like testosterone for a male. All right, so here we're going to get into more of the cycle now. Okay, so common reasons for low progesterone: ovarian hypofunction, like secondary amenorrhea. We're missing the cycle consistently. Okay, so if ovulation doesn't happen, the corpus luteum will not develop, which means that progesterone will not be secreted. All right, so there's going to be no spike for ovulation. So then estrogen is going to stay elevated. All right, so anxiety and stress can lower it. Poor quality of sleep, overtraining, high stress coming from CRH impacts the system. All that DHEA is raised. All right, and then under eating, not nourished. All right, which is actually just another form of stress. Okay, so biggest thing here is not eating correctly, under eating, overtraining, poor sleep, or lack of sleep, and then if you just are dealing with secondary amenorrhea, which then we would have to get to a root cause approach of that. Okay, so estrogen. So estrogen is not bad, but it's just when there's hormones imbalance, it's bad. And normally it's always estrogen that's always elevated. All right, so it's actually like in the ovaries in response to insulin, okay, convert androgens into estrone, which is a E1, which is a specific estrogen, and testosterone into estradiol. Okay, so adrenals and fat cells can also make up small amounts of this hormone as well. So fat makes up estrogen. We talked about that, but not good fat. I mean, not good estrogen. It's toxic estrogen. Okay, so this is a whole topic in itself when we talk about endocrine disruptors. Who's have heard of endocrine disruptors?
I've heard.
Okay, so they're outside chemicals in our body that mimics a hormone, primarily estrogen. They're called xenoestrogens. So BPA, plastics, fire retardant, those things are called endocrine disruptors. So what they do is they mimic a hormone. They mimic estrogen. All right, which is not good. Okay, so that will be in its own self. All right, so estrogen plays a role during puberty in the development of female secondary characteristics like breasts, wider hips, pubic hair, armpit hair. It also regulates the menstrual cycle, controlling the growth of the uterine lining during the follicular phase, has a large impact on extracellular water retention, sex drive, glucose, and fat storage. Okay, so main thing here is estrogen, insulin. There's a relationship there. And then it's also primarily dominant in the follicular phase, which you'll see. Okay, here we go. So back to what I was saying. There's three forms of estrogen. Okay, estrone, estradiol, and estriol. Now, this is important for when I show you later a Dutch example on like how these hormones are detoxing and what is going on. So estrone is the weakest, usually found in women with postmenopause. Okay, small amounts in most tissue, and then it can also convert it into the other estrogens. Estradiol is the main one. This is the one you probably see on blood work. It's the strongest. And then it's obviously like the main one that causes, unfortunately, cancers. Estriol is the weakest. It's like the smallest. It's not made in the ovaries. It's made in the adrenals. And then I think so this one is the highest during pregnancy. Okay, so a lot of stuff with the mood and everything. So right here, so estrogen and progesterone have an inverse relationship. You need the right amounts of both to achieve balance. Okay, so I want you to think of, so hormones are always talking about balance. We always want them balanced. Okay, so it's there's estrogen dominance, that's not good, but we always want hormones balanced, especially as a female. As a male, we want testosterone to be jacked up, not too jacked up with issues, but like we can get away. We want it jacked up. But for women, we want everything in a harmony. I want you to think of a symphony, like a harmony. Like everything needs to be in line. All the hormones have to be balanced. Okay, so that's the biggest thing with hormones. So every hormone has an inverse relationship. Okay, so estrogen is important for fertility, and progesterone is also important for fertility, but also maintaining for pregnancy. Okay, they both influence specific areas of the body: central nervous system, cardiovascular, uterus, endometrium, and then obviously bones because estrogen. All right, right here. If you want to take a picture of this on your phone, this is like the best image you can probably get of like a cycle. Okay.
Can you take
So,
a picture of the other
Yeah.
last one? And then I'll
this one?
yeah,
This one?
okay. Yeah. Okay, you can skip now. Back.
All right, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna give you guys a PDF on this too. But right here, this is the layout, 28-day cycle here. So this is perfect here. So each of these lines here is the hormone. Okay. All right. Let's run it down. So in the beginning here, period. So bleed. Day 1 is the bleed. So as the bleed's happening here, we see a rise in FSH, we see a rise in estrogen, we see a rise in luteinizing hormone, just a little bit, and the progesterone staying low. Okay. So right here, this phase right here, there's going to be another slide too. This phase right here is called follicular phase. Okay. So follicular stimulating hormones going up, estrogen is going up, luteinizing hormones also spiking from the luteal, so much stuff here. Corpus, I believe. Yeah, that was so. And then back in here, this is luteal. This is your luteal phase. Now, the primary hormone is progesterone. Remember, anti-anxiety, anti-inflammatory, you'll see too. So this is a broad view of the cycle here. So 28 days, day 1 of the cycle is the bleed. Okay, and from that, everyone doesn't ovulate on day 14. It might be day 15, it might be day 16. Okay, but ovulation spikes luteinizing hormone, and then progesterone gets released, and then again it goes. All right, there we go. So bleed is day 1 of the cycle. FSH is released, follicular stimulating hormone in the follicular phase. Estrogen then rises. LH surges right before ovulation, which then leads to luteal phase. Okay, and then ovulation occurs, and then progesterone is released from the corpus luteum. There we go. All right, so 28 days, day 1 of the bleed is the cycle. FSH. All right, so think about it as, okay, FSH is on the rise. Estrogen is dominant here. Estrogen's high. But then day 14, 15, or 16, depending on what your cycle is, ovulation, luteinizing hormone spikes. All right, and then progesterone starts to rise. Okay. All right, here's the back end, follicular phase. So FSH, so this is about fertility too, if anyone's into that. So FSH sends the signal to mature the eggs. Okay, 15 to 30 eggs begin to mature, each egg enclosed by a follicle. Follicles produce estrogen, which is needed for ovulation to eventually occur because FSH then spikes estrogen. All right, so if you're not ovulating, you probably don't have adequate estrogen to reach peak needed for ovulation to occur. Okay, the follicular race begins. All right, and then this is just talking about for fertility, like largest dominate the pack. This takes 2 weeks to release the egg, and then it just also depends on your environment. All right, so like that's when you'd want to essentially have intercourse if you were looking for fertility. So you'd want to do it in the luteal phase when you have the releases of the eggs. All right, so ovulation. So this is the middle of it. This is either like day 14, 15, 16. So I have it that the estrogen buildup from the follicles triggers an LH surge. It is the largest and most dominant follicles get released from your ovaries, so they fight each other. All right, so it takes 90 to 100 days for a follicle to fully mature into its peak ovulation. So if you were stressed like 2 to 3 months ago, it can affect your ovulation.
Oh.
All right. So So this is big for like, okay, maybe I skip, maybe, okay, now this month I didn't have a period, but I usually do. But we just kind of got to see like a background check, right? Because it's normal to, like, if you were to have like a month where you just didn't have your period, okay, that's normal. But if you were to have consistent months, we're talking like 3, 4, 5, even 2, then that's an issue, okay? So obviously you'll feel pain, discomfort around this time, notice change in digestion, slight bloating. I said for clients who notice major mood swings or feel extremely emotional around limitation, big thing is there's a buildup of estrogen, not detoxing enough. So then obviously you can add stuff to help with estrogen detoxification, which I'll have you guys do. So you don't have to worry. All right, so luteal phase. After ovulation and the release of the egg, the follicle will now collapse on itself to create the corpus luteum. All right, so then, because this is going to help with the release of progesterone. Okay, we want to release progesterone, and then after 2 weeks of progesterone rising, it starts to drop off a few days before you get your period. All right. So some women might have a shift in energy up or down. All right, and then they might experience a little PMS. And that's right before the day 1 bleed. So why is ovulation plus luteal phase so important? You know, because some people are like, I don't even want a period and all that. This is for the people that record, not for you guys on here. So some people are like, why do I need it? So without ovulation, the release of progesterone doesn't happen. All right, and these are the main things here. Progesterone is the calming hormone. It also balances your estrogen, which then doesn't make you estrogen dominant. It protects against breast cancer. It actually has an inverse relationship with the thyroid. So back to what we're talking about, functional root cause approach. See, there's a lot of systems that interplay with each other. Okay, so effects on the thyroid, it reduces inflammation. It promotes sleep and relaxation. Root cause of a lot of women's insomnia is progesterone. Root cause of a lot of issues with women that can't sleep is progesterone. All right, protects against heart disease, okay, because it also balances estrogen. There's an inverse relationship there. All right, and improves your ability to cope with stress. All right, these alone are big reasons why you might have these symptoms, because you're not ovulating correctly. There's no ovulation, so then there's no progesterone release. So then if there's no progesterone release, we're not calming, we're not balancing estrogen right. All right, our thyroid gets thrown off, we're not reducing inflammation, we're not having good sleep. So big deal, big deal. So how do we actually support progesterone and support ovulation? Okay, there's a few different things. So this is going to be the play-by-play. So we can support the HPA axis. All right, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. All right, talking about the trickle down of the hormones effect, supporting the whole cascade of the system. All right, stress management, mindful activity, helping calm your nervous system, not being always in fight or flight, sympathetic dominance, you know, taking time for yourself. You know, maybe you have a long day with all the kids, you know, just making sure you're staying calm, you know, or to the best. Just maybe even just having that 5 minutes to yourself, like just 5 minutes, nothing else. All right. And then best ways you can improve your sleep, like on your plan, like teas, the bath, the journal, essential oils, all that. The addressing cortisol imbalance, that would come from, since you guys are, so you're taking an adaptogenin 3 times throughout the day, and that balances your cortisol. But for most people, their cortisol is just so disbalanced. That's even weird. So what that means is that at night is when they have cortisol really high, so they feel wired and tired. And then in the morning, they just feel so dragged throughout the day. It's because they actually have low cortisol, not that they have a caffeine deficiency. All right, so big thing there. All right, so thyroid, back to what progesterone has an inverse relationship with thyroid. So then obviously, if you have a thrown off thyroid, you also have thrown off progesterone, which throws off estrogen. All right, so obviously there's a lot of things going on. And with some of you guys know what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about, you know, the dynamic system here. Okay, anyway, so obviously reducing inflammation, so cleaning up the diet, reducing, you know, processed sugars, increasing your water intake, different fruits and vegetables that hold good phytonutrients, and coniferous veggies that help with estrogen detox, reducing alcohol intake, refined foods, vegetable oils, seed oils, and then of a lower glycemic diet, removing inflammation, help with blood sugar, not really starving your body from carbs, micronutrients. Big thing is actually nutrient deficiencies are pretty common, especially with like magnesium, zinc, B6, and vitamin D. These are like main nutrients that most of the population is deficient in. So that will cause an issue with low progesterone. All right, so obviously supporting it with like different supplements with magnesium, bacteria, vitamin D, selenium, thyroid hormone. Think about like thyroid boost, fatty acids, and then micronutrient balance can help with hormone production. So usually like a big thing is like chasteberry is like the main one. And if I really wanted to just give you progesterone, then you can use Progon B, but I haven't done that with any of you guys, I believe. Not you guys, but other people. And then obviously, yeah, improve pituitary ovarian communication. So this is improving the whole system abroad. So yeah, chasteberry and isotal HPA support. Stuff that everyone talks about with like PCOS, you know, so that type of stuff. HPA support is like adaptogens, ashwagandha, Cordes that you guys are taking, Herbal Adrenal Plus, Adrenal Stress Pro, like those are there. All right, so back to what you're saying. So what negatively affects our hormones? What negatively affects it? You can take a picture of this too. All right, so these are the things that negatively affects our hormones. All right, xenohormesis. This is going back to the toxins, the chemicals, like BPA, fire retardant, nonstick cookware. Like all these things mimic estrogen. So in the society we live in today, there's so many of these xenoestrogens. Xenohormesis is technically, I guess, the process of it happening, but xenoestrogens is like, see, we're bombarded with so much excess estrogen. If this is making sense, like BPA, plastics, endocrine disruptors. Okay. All right. So CRH, chronic stress, throws it off. Liver dysfunction, obviously, because we're not detoxing well enough. Diabetes, low grade inflammation, obviously. Insulin resistance, there's no conversion. You know, it's impacting it. Fat cells, creating more estrogen. Anxiety, obviously neurotransmitters are thrown off. Caloric deficit, because that's very stressful. Overtraining, that's another stress. Medications can impact it. Birth control, even like thyroid hormone, beta blockers, all that. Low fat diets, because there's no cholesterol. Sleep, no brainer. Alcohol, just aromatases more into your body, so you're just creating more estrogen. All right, so when your cycle changes, okay, so there are many reasons why your cycle can change. Stress, trauma, changing your diet or exercise, or changes in your medications. It's completely normal. It's supposed to say completely normal for your cycle to be missed on a random month, or stress can prevent ovulation from occurring. All right, so there's amenorrhea, and then secondary amenorrhea is when it's going on for several months. So issues that are common conditions of why your menstrual cycle can change. All right, low progesterone, high estrogen, low testosterone, high cortisol, low cortisol, high thyroid, low thyroid. Thyroid is a hormone. So back to what we're saying. You see how I said high, low, high, low, high, low? Okay, so remember I talked about balance. We want the hormone balance. We don't want it too high. We don't want it too low. We want them balanced. Okay, so that could be a reason is there's obviously an imbalance of hormones when the menstrual cycle is changing. So common stressors that cause a missed period. And there's a lot here. So nutrient deficiencies, okay, lack of sleep, over exercising or too much HIIT. Okay. I want you to know that over exercising or too much HIIT could be those 16-hour work days. It's the same thing. Okay, so same thing. So under eating or chronic dieting, another stressor. Chronic dieting is okay during the week I'm good, but then in the weekend I go crazy. Or I go 3 good days, 3 days that are good, and 3 days that are crazy. If you're just, anorexic, that's going to really hurt your hormones, making you not have a period. That's actually pretty common too. There's no, like I see a lot of no balance, emotional stress, breakup, job deadline, trauma, loss of a loved one, pet, medication, and then obviously estrogen dominance, no progesterone, cortisol dysregulation, thyroid issues do play a role. Pituitary dysfunction, this is like your stress in your brain, just there's just so much going on, just an imbalance, Epstein-Barr, Lyme disease, no, that's whole topic in itself, just a disease, illness, more so going into types of and then gut infections, SIBO, bacterial overgrowth, candida, H. pylori. I want you to know that the gut plays such a big role in hormones because they have to process through it. Okay, so the gut's a big deal here. Like if you're having a missed period, or if someone has a missed period, maybe you like weird working through a gut, like the gut has a big role in like hormones. If your gut is off, your hormones are off. Okay, and then insulin resistance, environmental toxins, going back to the xenohormesis, those endocrine disruptors, and then any type of acute stress or chronic stress. Okay, can impact the menstrual cycle. Okay, so how can you naturally avoid a shorter or lighter period from occurring and helping, promote fertility? So these are things that we should do to help with hormone, or pretty much our cycles, your cycles, not mine. I don't cycle. All right, so avoid under eating or over exercising, obviously. So if you're dieting, ensure you're taking like diet breaks, refeeds. Like the flush is a strategic refeed, trying to get your metabolism back, feeding you up. All right, so and then losing your cycle, it could take a little bit of time to get it back, but it just all depends on the individual. Okay, so obviously making sure you're taking micronutrients, consuming adequate micronutrients, like those medical foods that you guys are taking are full of micronutrients. Okay, Metapure, Hormone Plus Complete, like all those are filled with micronutrients. Your diet's high in fats. You guys have got all the oils, all that. All right, and then obviously dietary fat, cholesterol, markers of your hormones. All right, so fat and cholesterol for your hormones, and they're talking about dietary fat here. So dietary fat and cholesterol are vital for your hormones. All right, so vital. Don't low fat diet. No. All right, so like good dietary fat. I'm going to talk about seed oil fat, like processed fat. I'm talking about good fat, flaxseed, avocado, olive oil, avocado, like guacamole, like good fat, and then cholesterol, like from meat. All right, so obviously in the beginning we don't use that much cholesterol coming from meat. Okay, but as we move on, but like fatty fish, okay, omega-3s, nut, seed, unprocessed oil, yep, everything I'm saying, yep. And then when it's the right time, we're now working on lowering GI stress, getting into the meats, and then prioritize sleep and stress management. Safe zone. Everyone's in fight or flight. That's why they are having their cycle. They're in sympathetic dominance. So making sure we get into parasympathetic, stress reduction, lifestyle techniques, proper nutrition, proper supplementation. Okay, so I want you girls to know that as you age, it's vital to have these hormones in check. It's not just about calories anymore. It's not that you think about it as like when you were younger, you could just not eat, and then you were able to just lose weight. But now you're getting older, and there's a lot more things going on. So that's just causing issues. Okay, so there we go. Where are we at? Put that to. There we go. All right, so Dutch testing. All right. Oh shoot. Okay, so Dutch testing. Dutch testing is. Let me check if this is okay. Perfect. So Dutch test. Have you guys heard about the Dutch test?
Yes, but I don't know what it is.
Same.
So a Dutch test. Yeah, so a Dutch test is the most comprehensive, best hormone female test there is. Hands down. I say this because it measures your cortisol rhythm, it measures all your androgens, it measures all your progesterone, and measures all your estrogens. So it measures everything abroad. Okay, so the the only downside is that it's a higher price, and it just takes a little while to get the results. Okay, but it interprets it very well. Okay, so just a quick overview of the test. So it'll go into it here. So big thing here, women. Okay, progesterone steal. This is big. So this is discussed concept used to infer that there is one pool of pregnenolone and the body steals it to make cortisol during stressful environments. And now you can't make it rather than hormones. So in a sense, it's not stealing, but a shift of hormones by the brain. All right, leading to other, so less sex hormones. Okay, is this making sense? This slide here.
Yeah.
Progesterone steal. So when you're very stressed out, your pregnenolone. So when you're very stressed out, my apology. When you're very stressed out, your cortisol wants to steal from pregnenolone. Okay.
And it raises.
Yep. And then your cortisol gets high, and then you have no progesterone. Okay, so then that makes sense now, because if we're very stressed out, then cortisol gets high, and then we don't ovulate, because there's no, release. So progesterone steal, big thing here, raises cortisol, increase swelling, increase anxiety, sleeplessness, anxiety, swelling, erratic thinking, progesterone steal. Estrogen dominance, big thing. I feel as though almost every woman that I've had so far in my coaching career has been estrogen dominant. So this is when one or three conditions is present. Estrogen is too low. There's no estrogen. Also like PCOS, estrogen becomes too high. Dominance, or the ratio of progesterone and estradiol favors estrogen. Now you can see that on lab work, because you'll be able to see you guys probably don't even know this. But yeah, I'll show you that. But so first thing not to do is aggressively diet or train over hormonal imbalance. If you go and you have estrogen dominance and you continue to, do your 6 days a week resistance training HIIT, that's not going to help us, because all it's going to do is eat away muscle. All right. So menstrual cycle and training. All right, so your menstrual cycle changes more than just your mood and behavior. It can also change your body's fuel utilization source. So the way your body uses different macronutrients for energy, strength levels, and workout capacity. So big thing here, I was actually supposed to link the study here, but it's just that research is very conflicting right now. Like, you can go see research, and there's trials of women that haven't trained, or there's trials of women that do train during menstrual cycles and then don't, and they don't see that much of a difference. Right. Others do see change, some don't, but it doesn't focus on the connection. But here, if you really want like a full, you can take a picture of this, training around the menstrual cycle. So the follicular phase, when estrogen is dominant, that's when like your training can be most intense. You can handle longer workouts, high intensity. Your metabolism is lower at this stage. So you might, clients might feel like you might feel less hungry overall. You'll eat spaced out meals, but calories naturally might decrease a little. All right, you're more insulin sensitive. So the absorption and utilization of glucose will be more efficient. So you won't be like insulin resistant. You'll be very sensitive. That means your body will respond really well with carbs. All right, so that's for the follicular phase. So the first half, the luteal phase and progesterone is becoming dominant. Pretty much you need more rest, because progesterone, train, recovery might be as quick. Spaced out the workouts, reduce intensity, endurance, power output slightly, decrease focus. Just really like low, like get in there, kind of move the muscle, everything like that. All right, but your metabolism does increase. All right, so that's nice. I mean, it goes up 200, 300, so you burn. And then you are a little bit more insulin insensitive, so you want to watch your carbohydrates then. So follicular phase for training, estrogen increases insulin sensitivity. Carbohydrates are used more efficiently for energy. You will have increased strength and endurance during follicular phase and less reactive to stress. So you're more resilient. Like during your follicular phase, women, this is like when you feel so like vitality, like you feel very energetic, you feel really good, but that doesn't say you can't feel like good during luteal, but just there's some awareness there. All right, so progesterone increases insulin resistance. Fats are more used efficiently for energy, more of like not ketosis, but like you don't need like the primary like your energy in the mitochondria uses fats more efficiently rather than carbohydrates. All right, and then just low impact exercise. All right, so let's get to PMS here. So the root cause of PMS is actually unknown. PMS is greatly associated with hormone imbalances such as estrogen dominance, low progesterone, nutrient deficiency, inflammation, and then cortisol, neurotransmitter dysregulation like serotonin, GABA. So, big reason why women are on birth controls, or my apology, not birth controls. Big reason why women are on mood-altering medications is because their neurotransmitters are off. Their neurotransmitters are off because their hormones are also off. Also the gut. Hence, a big reason why women are way more than men on like SSRIs. Okay, so hence why someone would put in. So key ways. All right, focus on color, phytonutrients. The color, like the spectrum. All right, have a lot of food. Like I was talking, I forgot who it was, but we're talking about like oxidative, like different food is medicine. So food and the color in it helps with oxidative stress in the body, lowering it. All right, coniferous veggies hold ingredients like I3C and DIM that helps with estrogen detoxification out the liver. All right, fix your fats. This means stop using seed oils, the canola oil, the corn oil, the palm oil. Use unprocessed oils like ghee butter, olive oil, flaxseed, avocado. There. What I mean by cut the crap is, all the type of drinking, the processed food, like all that. There's a study there, and it shows that how good you treat yourself is how well your cycle treats itself. So if you were very stressed out, eating a lot of high glycemic foods, processed foods, then your cycle reflects that. Okay. And then focus on fiber, feed the good bacteria in the gut, keeping the microbiome healthy. Drink water, obviously, balance blood sugars with androgens and all of that. Endocrine disruptors, BPA, fire retardants, and then supplement smartly. All right, estrogen dominance. Reasons why you can be estrogen dominant: endocrine disruptors, nutrient deficiencies, poor diets, heavy metal. You guys get it. All right. Main thing here is a lot of times someone comes in, let's say they have a little bit of a thyroid issue. This will cause estrogen dominance. Maybe they got a gut issue. There goes estrogen dominance. They have PCOS or low progesterone, estrogen dominance. They were on birth control for years, estrogen dominance. They have poor liver detox, estrogen dominance. They can't, you see how all these things can affect, but then all these things can affect one another. Like if you have poor liver health, you can't process, T4 and T3 correctly, so then you have thyroid decline. You got gut dysbiosis, and then you have increased aromatase activity. So looking at a functional approach, different areas connect each other. Like there's inverse relationships. So the solution, obviously, we have to clean up the diet, reduce alcohol because that increases aromatase, remove endocrine disruptors, focus on fiber to help the gut bacteria. Obviously, going into promote a gut healthy microbiome. Prioritize your sleep so you can increase progesterone, which then will lower estrogen. Focus on self-care, supplement smartly, and then reduce inflammation. All right. This is going to get interesting. So, estrogen detoxification. Your estrogen gets detoxed out the liver. Okay, so the liver is very important. So that's why we flushed you in the beginning. Like your liver is very important for the detox. Okay, so that's why the beginning is we're really flushing the liver out. Okay, so your liver stores glucose and releases it. It metabolizes protein, carbs, and fat. It detoxifies toxins. It produces bile, which then helps digest fats and carry waste products out of your body. And then it even fights infections. All right, and more. Estrogen detoxification. Step 1, reduce the estrogen burden. All right, this is how we're going to talk about reducing estrogen detoxification. So supporting estrogen detoxification all through the liver. Slow down aromatase pathways, reduce stress, manage blood sugars, and then use inhibitory supplementation. The estro core. Core is hormone plus complete. Like fibroids, endometriosis. Like there's a lot of diseases and conditions that come from estrogen dominance. Okay. So inflammation and stress causes aromatase, which then increases estrogen. And then estroblome. I was going to put that in here, but I didn't want to confuse you guys. So promote a healthy gut microbiome. Right. So getting the aggregates out of our life is the first step to detoxification. Just getting the things that are already coming at us, getting them out. All right, the estrogen. Here we go. I actually put it in here. Okay, so some gut bacteria can produce excess B-glycerases. I butchered that, but anyway, what it is that it's recirculating estrogen in your body because it's not getting excreted through the liver. So think of estrogen as a present. The acid ties a bow on top of it and prays the leaf of the body, and then exits it, but then it comes back around. So glucuronidation of estrogen in the liver gets excreted in the bile, but then it doesn't leave. All right. So gut estroblome. Supporting estrogen detoxification, going back to SHBG, because it's in the liver. You remember that? So SHBG is in the liver. So usually in women, your SHBG is higher than men, but that's okay because that's how it's naturally supposed to be. But if you raise it too high, then you trap so much free hormones, which then will also increase estrogen. Okay, so now you have imbalance of estrogen. So what you have to do is support progesterone to help close the gap between the two hormones. Okay, so if you have high SHBG, then you'll have high estrogen. So what you need to do is lower SHBG. You can also lower the how you lower SHBG is to support progesterone. Inverse relationship as before. Reduce stress, increase healthy fats, focus on sleep hygiene, supplement progesterone support, either direct HRT, program B, or indirect like chasteberry, EV, primary oil, vitamin C. Okay, so as you age, it is not bad to use HRT for your hormones. Okay, especially like during menopause. Estrogen detoxification step 3, modulate estrogen receptors. Okay, so protect against estrogen disrupting chemicals. So this is talking about using different phytonutrients, getting away with xenoestrogens like BPA, plastics, really just supporting a healthy diet, like to be honest. Like it's going into a little bit too much, but just talking about having a clean environment. And then stage 4 is to support all phases of estrogen detoxification. Okay, quick overview. Let's go back. Okay, stage 1, we want to reduce the estrogen burden. Okay, we want to get rid of the things that are already coming at us in our life that are making us high in estrogen. Okay, like stress, blood sugar, insulin resistance. All right. So that's phase 1 is to reduce the estrogen burden. This talks about backed up liver. Then you get estrogen. This is basically a smart word to say that okay, I have estrogen dominance in my liver, and this is called estrogen. So anyway, then step 2 is to help SHBG. All right, so lower SHBG so you can raise levels of unbound like progesterone. Okay, step 3 is to modulate estrogen receptors. So what that essentially means is just supporting the inflammation, getting rid of excess inflammation out of the body from staying with estrogen disrupting chemicals, but just supporting essentially just with phytonutrients cells. And then stage 4 is all of it. Okay, so the thing about it is liver function, phase 2. So I want you guys to know, like the Metapure that you're using, the Metapure on the front, it says supports phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. So that's important because it's working on those things, you know, because now we're seeing like we work on detoxification, and then we also work on estrogen detoxification. Okay. So big thing there. Like that's why the method is powerful when we use it. Okay, so methylation. Methylation in itself, whole different topic, but in essence, so in phase 2 of estrogen detoxification, there's an enzyme, okay, that gets neutralized, okay, to estriol, to methylation, 4-MeO-E2, all of which can be eliminated through bio and urine, which is phase 3 of estrogen excretion. So there's methylation happening for estrogen detoxification. Okay, so right here is what I want you guys to see. So this is from a Dutch test. Okay. So back to the beginning of the presentation, we talked about those 3 types of estrogen. You guys remember those? So estrone, estradiol, estriol. These estrogens have detoxification enzymes that work. So this is how well you're detoxing the estrogen. Okay, so estriol is 16-hydroxy. Estrone is 4-hydroxy, and then it's also 2-hydroxy. And these are all estrogen detoxification. So if 4-hydroxy is oxidized instead of methylated, so it's on the low end here. No, my apologies. So if 4-hydroxy is too high, then it damages the DNA. Okay, so if this is pretty much your estrogen, so if you don't have good estrogen metabolism, so detoxification, it can damage your DNA, which is then obviously a big reason of cancer. Is that making sense? Like if you have estrogen dominance, like endometriosis, that can cause cancer. We have poor estrogen metabolization. Okay, it can lead to mutations, formation, DNA, addicts. So nutrient support, magnesium, folate, betaine, choline, antioxidants, SAMe, and just overall healthy lifestyle. All right, this is getting into genes and everything, which I can get into sometime, but yeah. I believe, yeah, this just something I want to put in there. Whoever's going to watch the replay here, fibroids, extremely common. Women with 80% of women developing them in their lifetime. This rate is much higher in perimenopausal women due to hormone imbalance. So uterine bleeding, anemia, pelvic pain, infertility, and reoccurring pregnancy loss. So keys to focus on is body composition. So good to muscle to fat ratio, obviously higher muscle, lowering inflammation in the body, managing blood sugar and working on the insulin response, supporting estrogen detoxification. So just putting that in there for anyone who might need. I believe that's it. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
You guys got any questions?
I have a lab result from like 2020 that I'm gonna text to you just because I'm curious to see what you'd have to say about it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So let's see. Oh, wait, on time.